If you think wearing a neon green mankini is the most shocking thing we've ever seen Sacha Baron Cohen do, then boy do we have news for you. Cohen's built quite the gag reel of celebrity interviews, hidden camera sketches, and wild scenes over his long comedic career. The English comedian set his sights on an unknowing audience all the way back in 1995 and never looked back. So without further delay, here are the craziest moments from his all-star list of characters to date. If Cohen knew what he knows now about Trump's rise to the White House, we guarantee that this interview with a future president of the United States would have gone differently. He presents himself as Ali G, one of Cohen's first character ideas out of college. He's the stereotypical white British wanker that the comedy community was waiting to lambast in some way. In this segment, Ali G presents the idea of a glove to catch dripping ice cream to Trump.
Just like these ice cream gloves that make the ice cream not go on your hands.
Here's a fun fact for you. Donald Trump would later brag that he caught on quicker than anyone else in the Ali G show's history. It turns out the interview actually went on for 7 minutes, which is longer than usual for Ali G. Bruno represents one of Sacha Baron Cohen's earliest character creations. He's an openly LGBTQ Austrian man with a knack for pushing right to the point in interviews. In his standalone film, Bruno is interviewing a former terrorist discussing the ways terror groups appear around the world. Bruno remarks that Osama bin Laden looks like a dirty old wizard.
Because your King Osama looks like a kind of dirty wizard or a homeless Santa.
He is immediately told to get out of the man's home. There's a lot of controversy around this clip now because the man involved was arrested on suspected terrorist activity and claims the film misrepresented him. Regardless, the movie was shown to audiences worldwide with Cohen's character saying this. The chance for retaliation was extraordinarily high and took guts to pull off. Dissing Osama bin Laden publicly as a national figure isn't something people desire to do every day.
My name is Borat.
Okay, good. Well, I'm not used to that, but that's fine.
You've been waiting to hear about him, and here you go. We finally have an entry involving Borat for you all to enjoy. Seriously, do we even need to explain this character to you all?
You will never get this, la 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 la.
The gimmick is so famous now that even people who never saw the movie understand the intended comedy. Still, here is one of the wildest moments from Borat by far. It plays out like a usual sketch for Cohen. He's feeding a bloodthirsty crowd of Americans lines about their war of terror that progressively gets darker and darker, yet still eliciting cheers.
Mayor George Bush drink the blood of every single man, woman, and child of Iraq.
He then turns the US national anthem into the Kazakhstan anthem, and the crowd turns quickly. It turns out Cohen nearly started a riot there, but the scene cuts away from the uproar. For the non-Americans and younger crowd here today, Ron Paul was a famous Tea Party candidate back in 2008 that gained a massive following for his conservative message. Cohen, in his brilliance, snagged an interview with the presidential candidate as his character Bruno. Paul was an elderly man at the time of filming, and it only made the scene even more hilarious. Everyone who knows Bruno segments expected it to go the usual way his interviews go. The questions get progressively more uncomfortable for the interviewee until they walk out. However, things change when there's a fake light malfunction on the set. Bruno corners Paul into a room and begins to seduce him with hidden cameras everywhere. It's a moment no one is likely to forget soon.
Whoops.
In a dive bar deep in Arizona, Borat takes the stage, framing himself as a local country singer from Kazakhstan. He carries a guitar and sports a very Western-looking button-up. Even then, he seems out of place compared to the clientele the camera keeps cutting to at this establishment. The song starts out melodic and straightforward, but, well, quickly turns anti-Semitic, a staple for the Borat character. Let's break this one down. See, Cohen, like most people, knows that there's this silent allowance of anti-Semitic rhetoric in America and around the world. His song is meant to highlight the fact that people let him play on, and some even sing along. You can take this wild moment in many ways, but remember, Cohen himself is Jewish. He profoundly understands the problem he lambasts here. Full disclosure, this scene isn't wild in the ordinary sense. Cohen doesn't do some crazy stunt to create the massive buzz around the interview. All it is his character, Ali G, interviewing and meeting Buzz Aldrin for the first time. That is what's so wild to everyone everywhere. How did Sacha Baron Cohen land an interview with this American legend? Yeah, we don't know the answer either. The oddest part is the interview is super wholesome too. Sure, Ali G is trying to be as wrong and rude as possible, but it doesn't affect Buzz Aldrin in the slightest.
Do you think man will ever walk on the sun?
No. The sun is too hot. It is not a good place to go to.
Aldrin is super polite the whole time, explaining simple things to Ali and politely correcting him constantly. He shows patience that no other guest has ever demonstrated. Before Borat was famous worldwide, he was doing simple skits on his HBO show and BBC4 with Bruno and Ali G. One such sketch was an interview with a Southern etiquette coach to help Borat learn Southern manners. Anyone who knows Borat knows this doesn't end well, but there's way more to this wild moment. Turns out, Cohen would repeat the moment in his film Borat to an even better result. He garners fist bumps and high fives from the men around him while asking vulgar questions to this woman.
They would go crazy.
Oh my.
For these two, not so much.
The second etiquette coach would later sue Cohen for her appearance in the movie, but the courts sided with Cohen. It's time to address the elephant in the room here. There are plenty of times in Sacha Baron Cohen's films that we end up wondering if a moment is staged or semi-staged, given the level of absurdity some moments supply. One moment has to be Bruno's appearance on a talk show with Baby OJ. Come on, it's at least partially staged. We know at least the host is in on it. There's no way he's not.
So what's the baby's name?
OJ.
For Bruno to end up in front of a predominantly black audience claiming to have exchanged a baby from Africa for an iPod is too wild. There is no way he'd make it to the chair before getting booed off. Speaking of staged moments, this final scene in Bruno took a lot of coordinating and planning security. His crew even rehearsed the scene a few times to figure out how to get Cohen and his co-actor out of the arena quickly. Yes, we're talking about the MMA fight hosted by the not-so-lovely people of Texarkana. Bruno sneaks his way into a fight with his former lover. The two start battling and fighting until the tide turns. And the next thing you know, they're making out in the middle of the mat and even begin to go further. The crowd goes ballistic. A metal chair is even thrown at Cohen during one moment. He needed to escape via a secret tunnel built into the stage. That's how bad it got. Dear viewer, we apologize for the moment you're about to see, but face it, you knew this one was coming. Okay, we said it wasn't the only thing Cohen was known for, but it's undoubtedly his most famous crazy moment or look now. We don't even know where to start for this one. During the film circuit run, Cohen even appeared as Borat in this barely safe for work mankini for a couple of promotions. It's almost as if he knew he'd have to wear this look for the rest of his life. The fact that it's neon green doesn't help, and he'll never escape the fact that he wore this to public beaches. Every time he's on a late night show, they show this picture, no joke. Fans of the Oscars likely remember this infamous gag from the 2012 red carpet, where Ryan Seacrest became the target of a new Sacha Baron Cohen creation. Admiral General Aladdin, otherwise known as the Dictator, graced the scene carrying an urn filled with fake ashes meant to be recently lost dictator Kim Jong-il. Seacrest gave Aladdin a few questions, but we know Cohen is up to something from the get-go. The burial urn inches ever closer to Seacrest before suddenly spilling all over his tuxedo. Seacrest wasn't happy by that point, and Cohen was escorted away by security. It was all in good fun, but Seacrest didn't plan on needing a second jacket that night, a move he regrets to this day. We had to save at least one entry for Cohen's performances outside his familiar characters and gimmicks. The best example we could come up with had to be his performance as the character Jean Girard in Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Even as an antagonist, he still manages to stand out amongst a talented group of comedians. Jean Girard brilliantly pokes fun at both Europeans and Americans through his role in the movie. Some critics today call the character problematic, but they miss the point. Cohen's role as Girard is meant to call out the problem with why his sexuality in the movie is seen as inappropriate. The best example comes when he embraces Ricky Bobby at the end of their great race. Bruno has spent his fair share of time in Alabama, possibly because he gets excellent reactions every time his character is seen down there. Cohen knows that there are deep-seated issues in this southern state that he loves poking at with his character. In one such scene, Bruno learns to hunt from a group of Alabama hunters in their backwoods. It ends with him waking up naked, attempting to get into the tent of another hunter. The scene seems simple in the film, We get a few weird looks from the hunters, but for the most part, things play out as you'd expect. It's the behind-the-scenes commentary that brings out the real craziness that ensued. Turns out, the first pair of hunters loaded their rifles when they discovered Bruno's sexual orientation and threatened him. We're rounding out this list with a tamer entry compared to all the antics and risks we've discussed so far. In fact, if you watch the clip with no commentary, you'd never see anything wrong in the interview Bruno does with Paul Wilmot. It feels like a simple, if not slightly dull scene from his show. You have to look a bit deeper to see what's so crazy here. Notice that Sacha Baron Cohen is doing something he hardly ever does in any of his material. Cohen is breaking character. There are a few times during the segment he cracks a smile and attempts to quickly hide it. You can especially see it during the part where he pitches the hoverboard. It's a remarkable moment from a comedian known for his straight face. So did these moments change the way you see Sacha Baron Cohen? We want to hear your favorite wild character moments from him in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all the latest videos here at ScreenRant.